on Vermont Public this morning, talking about manufactured housing. Did you hear her this morning? Anyway, she was there. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Senate Economic Development, Housing and General Affairs. We've had an incredibly productive week, and we are going to end it productively, I hope, as well. We have two bills that we are hoping that we will be getting out, hopefully by 11:30 this morning. We are going to begin with the cannabis bills and look at the revisions that were made overnight by our astonishing and tireless legislative council and executive director of the CCB, or I don't know what Pepper's proper title is, but anyway, whatever Pepper is. What is your title? Chair of the CCB. They've worked really hard along with a lot of the stakeholders to get us to a point, hopefully we can get yes on this bill, because this is an important economic sector to Vermont, and one we both want to protect and enable so that in the near future and as we look at federal descheduling. So that is certainly the intent behind a lot of our work. Tucker, if you'd be kind enough to go through, Kiara has kindly passed out a new draft. And Tucker, if you'd be kind enough to go through what we've agreed to thus far and what the changes are that you have with you.
Absolutely. So good morning, Tucker Anderson, Legislative Council. You should have in front of you draft 3.1 of the committee strike all amendments as 278.
Yeah.
Right. So working from that document and per the chair's request, I'll go through the sections to indicate the current agreements and changes that were made from draft 2.1. So section 1 increases the packaging limit.
We're going to close these sections out, or is that what we're doing? Or yes, we're good with that.
I think we need to. My understanding is we are good with everything that's still in here.
Gotcha.
Is that your understanding, Counselor? Yes. Okay, you're nodding, so I assume that's a yes. My understanding is that we're fine with everything that's in it so far. There are still things for discussion, but that mostly we are okay with where we are. Is that your understanding? Is that our understanding? Well, let's.
I think so, but let's go through.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's what we're doing. Okay.
Sections 2, 3, and 4 all deal with increasing the transaction limit,
right,
and the associated possession limits.
Right.
And within that, there was a question that came up from member of the committee, just asking me to confirm that the 5 to 10 gram increase in sections 3 and 4 are for the possession of hashish. They do not relate to the edibles content.
Right. There is no dealing with edibles in this bill, which will make my friend from South Burlington dance.
Section. I do represent 10 other communities too. I should probably always. Sorry.
We're on page 3, moving to page 4. Section 5 contains the event permits, and there are a couple changes in here. Based on the committee's discussion yesterday, the first I'll point you to is in subsection C, which covers permit restrictions.
Yeah.
It's on page 5, very first sentence. Annually, the board shall issue not more than 10 permits for public events and 10 permits for private events. I did check with a grammar expert and drafting operations last night, very lazy, and asked whether a fronted adverbial is in fact a temporal limitation. And the answer was yes. So that is 20 permits issued per year, 10 public, 10 private events.
So instead, the language will read 20 permits.
It reads exactly how it is in the draft in subsection C, in that highlighted sentence. Annually, the board shall issue not more than 10 permits for public events.
Perfect. Thank you.
Further on, this is
remember
based
this
on
is a pilot. Pilot, everybody.
May I ask this?
Yeah.
So those permits issued, but the year might overlap, so it doesn't really matter. It could be, they issue the permit this year, but the event might be the 12th year, because there's gonna be planning for this, right? So
Like
it's
a
about
wedding.
the
You're
permit
right.
issuance date and
Right.
not the event itself. So there
Yes.
could be 30 events one year because the permits are.
It is.
All right.
No. The temporal limit is attached to the board's issuance. of-
Right.
Question regarding a wedding permit. If I'm reading this correctly, wedding, you can get a wedding permit in which at that wedding event, cannabis is provided. Or you could have, presumably, I don't know what's called forbid as such, you can't go serve alcohol at that event. Is that, am I reading it correct?
That is correct. That's a restriction in the restriction section. Is that
So if someone who has a wedding, and wedding is a large enough event that it has cannabis users and it has alcohol users, you've got to make a choice as to which one of your relatives you allow to attend your wedding.
That's the choice, I think, of the people who are giving it. Yeah.
Right. Or you have to establish different premises for the two different licenses. So the restriction in that sentence, and I'll direct everyone to where that's located in subsection C.
Good
It's the
question.
third sentence on line 15, an event permit shall not be issued for a location at which alcoholic beverages are sold or furnished for on-premises consumption. So you'd have to have two separate locations at the venue, subject to two separate licenses.
But conceivably, you could have two separate locations that were not that far apart.
Sure. Right.
But
I mean, it's sort of,
without transit, presumably between the two, I'll get a drink here and then I'll smoke some pot, then I'll get back for the drink.
I think that's one of the issues that the Cannabis Control Board is gonna have to look at as they issue these permits. I mean,
It
that's,
just seems very, that seems also that the popularity of the event line in terms of having such an event, if it's family, that wedding.
Well, in both instances here, there's a requirement for licensee education, which is something that I always discuss in the context of the alcoholic beverages regulations, that you could have an individual who is consuming multiple different substances, and licensee education requires that prior to selling whatever the underlying substances, alcoholic beverages or cannabis, that the seller evaluates whether that's.
and that would be the caterer. I mean, in a wedding situation, that would be a caterer.
And assuming there's an alcoholic beverage license involved as well, that licensee also has an obligation to evaluate whether it's appropriate to furnish alcoholic beverages.
It's an issue that has to be worked out. I mean, and that's current law, right? I mean, they can't do that. So I think that that is something that every person who's wanting to give a wedding that includes this would have to address, and would have to address with the board, and the board will have to figure that out.
I can't and don't want to speak for the Department of Liquor and Lottery, but I recall that the new licensee education that was developed maybe 5 years ago includes training on evaluating whether a customer is under the influence of other substances besides alcohol.
That's the part of it, yeah. Okay, good question, Randy, one that the bride and the groom are gonna have to take on board and discuss with the CCB. Okay, let's keep moving.
Next highlighted portion in
Are we,
subsection C.
but first of all, are we okay with these changes? Can we say yes to these changes? Because I think they reflect our conversation.
So the second sentence, the second change to highlight for you in the restrictions, this is based on discussion that happened yesterday. The cannabis retailer that holds an event permit shall not conduct sales at the licensed retail location and the permitted event contemporaneously. So you can't operate the license and the permit for sales at the exact same time.
Great. I think that reflects what we talked about.
So then just for clarity, is there a sales event going on, potentially going on at the permitted event, the permitted event? Side of
At a public event, yes.
So,
Yeah, because if it's a farmer's market, they'll be selling presumably.
okay, this is the dual location problem.
I'm fine with it, but I think it was Senator Ron that raised it. I'm not sure that this addresses her concern. So in Essex, there's a store that they do these things out in the parking lot. So if that store wanted to host an event in the Essex Outlet Center, they couldn't sell in the store while an event is outside.
Because it's co-located.
And
I
this
think,
is good. This makes sense. That they can't sell in the storefront. But
No, but
right
they
up
can't-
front, they've got a big event.
Does it make sense, or is that the letter of the law?
wait,
what
let's
is-
let Tucker answer, because I thought we meant if it was co-located, that you could do that you can keep both of them. Am I wrong?
Makes sense.
I am ambivalent to this. I just don't know if this is addressing the concern she raised.
So the prohibition is from selling at the licensed retail location and the permitted event at the same time. So if the licensed location, retail location includes that outdoor portion.
On land they own, or it's part of
They
the
don't,
business.
so it's this big outlet center. They do festivals out of the parking lot, like literally right in front of their store, but it's a bunch of stores.
That's the permitted location as far as their original license. Their underlying license, if it is, it's what
I would defer on any questions about the current practice under the licenses that exist right now without the event permit to the.
Oh, well, we have Julie too. So we have 2/3 of the cannabis control board. It's good to have you both. Pepper, would you, or Julie, would you like to answer that and what we might add to make that co-location if they're, what would you, or would that be considered in the permit issuance?
For the record, James Pepper, Chair of the Cannabis Control Board, and this is trying to address the issue that you have an anti-franchising law, which says that a retailer can't operate in two locations simultaneously. This is just trying to honor the spirit of that law. A retailer theoretically could get a special event permit to have inside their store, and then, this kind of becomes moot. But if they want to move outside of the store at all, they have to close the store down while sales are happening elsewhere.
But wait,
parking lot.
it doesn't make sense to me that would practically how it would have to be, but if this makes the franchising law happy and James Pepper happy, then I'm good with it.
I'm not sure it makes them happy, but
This was the issue that's in sale.
yeah, no, it is. And I thought, is there no co-location of an adjacent property that we could consider? Could we build that into your ability to make that? I mean, you could make that decision now, couldn't you, if it was co-located?
This is a pretty broad grant of authority.
Right.
So we could say if it's an adjacent property that it just reasonably makes sense to leave the store. Well,
Could we add that somewhere that made any sense?
Any law that it has to make sense. Something
No, don't be so cynical, Senator Brock.
very unusual
Many of our laws make sense. To some
extent.
extent. Well, we hope a lot, because otherwise we're wasting our time. We have to make sense.
It still is, but I don't have a major concern with this. If this is what we need to do.
No, I think, thank you for pointing it out,
I think
because this is the
that
time to catch it.
a language fix would need to add an exception clause at the end stating that, except for sales conducted at a permitted event location that is contiguous with a licensed retail location.
Thank you. That would, I mean, does that language work for you?
it's fine. I mean, we've had to
It's
deal
broad
with
enough
this
for you
in
to
the
be able to
past.
make.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
That's it.
Jeffrey, you have your hand up. Welcome.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Chair. I wish I could be there with everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you're fine.
Terrific. Just two brief comments on this section. Tucker, thank you for your work and everybody involved. And I just want to say I appreciate the energy that this committee is putting behind 278. Two items briefly. The fee is a little high. We had asked that it keep to the fee for that was in the first version of the bill. Recall version 1.0. This was $500 $1,000 exceeds the price of a license for some small cultivators, so we would ask you consider that. And then lastly, if it's possible to have some sort of safeguard or mechanism that prevents this event permit, which can be successful just from, we want to have some parity there. So we understand producers are eligible to pull the permit, but we would want to avoid like just wholesalers or retailers only getting access if there's some sort of mechanism to ensure that.
Parity.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I'll stop there. Thank you.
I think that's fair to ask because we don't want just 10 retailers asking to have stuff out in their parking lot. This was initially designed to be for our craft growers, our craft cannabis industry to have farmers markets or markets where they could have several craft growers selling their work, their product together. So, Pepper or Tucker, do we have language that might ensure that we have parity between retailers and growers? Is that the right term, growers? I know there's manufacturers and producers, but parity with whom of those three options? Retailers, growers, and me. Somebody help me. There are three options here. What are we asking for?
Two immediate solutions that come to mind. First is building out in the restriction section a restriction on the number of permits that the board can issue to a particular license category. So you all would have to make policy choice. I could draft a limitation right there. The other option is that the permittee selection process is a discretionary part of the procedures that the board is directed to adopt. So you could add to the procedures section a requirement that the board balance.
That might make the most sense. Let's just do that and let the board balance between retailers and growers, manufacturers, and producers. David.
I just want to mention one license category that does not often get mentioned, but does exist. There are businesses that are wholesalers, and they should also be able to participate in this process to apply for an event permit.
Okay, so balance between between retailers, growers, producers, manufacturers, and wholesalers.
Yes, I'll make sure. Yeah, yes, I mean, you don't need the labs, but labs probably don't need to.
Yeah, no, I'm not interested in labs.
So just cultivators, manufacturers, wholesalers, and retailers.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tucker. Balance, and that's in the procedures section. Add balance. Okay. Thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you, Jeffrey. On Jeffrey's second point, the $1,000, this was set by, this was originally the draft payment application in our working group over it. I mean, I don't know where the $1,000 came from. Thomas, you had a thought.
In the interest of time, we just punt that to Senate Finance and we'll talk about it then.
Good.
Fine.
Good, well,
Because it needs to take in your time on reviewing all these permits. I mean, I'm happy to take it to 500, but let's flag it for finance. Is that okay? Team?
Yes.
if you want to put it 502 per year class.
I drop it and then still think of.
Yeah, you could drop it and then have the discussion. Why don't we drop it and have the discussion? Let's look at 500 and then we can come back. We don't want to make it prohibitively expensive. We're working on a pilot, so we're wanting more.
License,
What?
a one-time event compared to a license. It
Yes.
needs to be.
I think that has to be fair. Agreed. Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you. Okay. If we're okay with that, let's go with 500. So that's 3 changes here so far. The 500 balance and the new language about except for, right, for the wedding.
I highlighted for you, there were no substantive changes here, but I reorganized the including clause in subsection F to make it a little more clear. Because for some reason I had isolated associated forms on its own. It made no sense. So I think that Also highlighted it because there were questions from the CCB about the breadth and scope of this authority. And for these procedures, this is an including clause, which means it's not limited. These are things that you all are calling out as things that are incorporated within the discretion that the CCB has. And it includes broadly security requirements and event site restrictions. Those were the two things that the committee decided to call out expressly, but it's not exhaustive.
Thanks. Okay, are we okay with events as edited? Okay, we can, okay, great. Let's move to delivery permits.
Under the delivery permits, we're on page 7. This has been updated to allow the board to grant delivery permits to tier 1 cultivators and tier 1 manufacturers.
And just remind us again, for people who don't live in this world, tier 1 are our small craft growers,
Can they?
correct?
There is a specific statutory definition.
Yeah, no, it's pepper.
Yes, they
Okay,
are. They,
thanks.
yep.
That's what we do.
That was a spare for your list. Yep.
We're not, yeah. Retailers have so many, yeah.
Are these cultivators manufacturers delivering straight to consumer? No. Is this delivery permit going to be allowing them to sell directly to consumers?
Yes, from their licensed location directly to consumers. So they have to deliver the products.
So this is direct to sales, to direct sales from manufacturers, strippers. Yes. We don't have that now.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
It's a pilot just to see how it works.
Good.
Pepper and Julie, any comments on this? I know this is a hard section for you because it's a big step in a direction we haven't gone. And so you talked eloquently yesterday about it. What are your,
No, I mean,
as redrafted, are you
Right.
okay with trying this as a pilot?
right, yes, what I wanted to just, make clear yesterday and today is it's a discretionary grant of no more than 15 annually. We're gonna have to roll this out slowly and see how it goes. I just don't want the expectation that there's going to be 15 of these,
Immediately.
Right.
Yes.
And I know we've talked about this a lot, but just they're gonna have to upskill on what it takes to like check the and the whole process.
Correct.
That's all part of what you're gonna do with the
Yeah.
pilot. Okay.
We can't have, and to go to David Weeks' concern, we can't in 198 be trying to add an inspector who's going to be overseeing online and delivery sales with nicotine to our young people and also not do this in a thoughtful way. I mean, they're inconsistent. We want to be consistent and thoughtful delivery that's controlled in a thoughtful way is that's the challenge, is figuring that out. So Jeffrey, there's your challenge with Pepper and Julie. Okay. Yes. Jeffrey, you have another. Yes, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Chair. We had talked about committee including tier 2 cultivators and manufacturers. Both are considered small. Statutorily, it's only one, but so that the consideration I'm asking of this committee, if appropriate, would be just to include that second tier, so tier 1 and tier 2 cultivators and manufacturers for this delivery permit.
How many more does that loop into the? Because I agree that was the conversation I believe was for tier 1 and tier 2, but the further discussion of the small group may have been that tier 2 adds an enormous number.
I was looking at these numbers yesterday. Don't quote me, but it's around 200, I think, tier 1, and then you add 50 more tier 2s.
So it's not, if you're already at 200, it's not onerous to consider maybe another 50, and it's only 15 permits.
It's
It's not like all these people are going to be able to do this.
right. And we do have a tier 2 manufacturing license, but I don't think that that's the request. I didn't quite hear where Jeffrey landed on tier 2 product manufacturers. This includes tier 1 cultivators and tier 1 manufacturers.
You're just asking for, and I believe the conversation had been around tier 1 and tier 2.
Correct.
Tier one and tier two growers and manufacturers.
Correct. To be clear, that's what we are asking. And reminding the committee, this concept is limited to the number of, right, a fixed number each year. So I think
The
there's
50
a way to-
Does that exponentially add more than the 50 that you were?
That adds, I mean, yes, I mean, we have quite a few tier two manufacturers.
Julie,
It'll create a lot.
introduce yourself.
Oh, Julie Hulbert for the Cannabis Control Board. It's just going to create a lot more competition for those 15 delivery permits, right? That's just, I would see it more like we're not going to have to issue more, but there will be a lot more competition with the tier
Is
one.
that okay with you, Jeffrey? More competition?
Yes, we're hearing from producers, that's what they would prefer.
Okay, then let's include them. Change number 4. We're working our way through this.
Right, sorry.
We are on page 7, actually, we've had constructive changes. So we're, okay, yes, because that was, I believe, our conversation. Okay, so that's Tucker. You want to keep going?
Yeah, the next change is in subsection D. Again, I reorganized the including clause and the sinkers based on questions about the scope here and called out specific parts of the preceding elements in the section, made sure that they were covered in this including clause, such as storage and security requirements. There were questions that came up about whether the scope of the procedure authority would include whether a cannabis could be stored in vehicles. So that is included expressly in the discretion within the procedure.
Right. Thank you. Right, okay, section. Are we all okay with that? Because we're great. Okay, let's cruise to section 7. Page
There are-
8, bottom.
Yep, a few sections here, 7, 8, and 9. In these sections, there's some conforming updates within Title 32 to ensure that the permit holders, both for the event permit and the delivery permit, are called out as licensees that will pay various taxes to the tax department.
Ted, you have 5 minutes.
I have 5 minutes.
May we interrupt just briefly, because as we consider this bill, can you join us from right there? Wait a minute, don't move, Tucker. Oh, Ted has 5 minutes. Love Ted, but for 5 minutes, you can satisfy here. So Ted has done some additional work that we've asked him to do on after the LAOB discussion yesterday. And I just wanted Ted to update us. I asked Ted, given our conversation with LAOB, what the LAOB had gotten last year, what they're in the governor's budget for this year, what their budget is, and I'd just love to have you share that with the committee.
Sure.
I have the email that Thomas has somewhere.
For the record, Ted Barnett, Joint Fiscal Office. My computer is dead. It's perpetually.
You want to
But
just see your own memo?
I am going to. Oh, well, that works too. I have it on my phone. I have it on paper. So it looks like, based on research that I did last night, that in the governor's recommended budget, there is 1.68 billion in base funding for the LAOB that appears in the VHCB B811 section of the budget.
1.68.
1.68, so that's base funding. They, in their budget testimony, and I think they also shared with you all yesterday, that their total budget that they're looking for in fiscal year 27 is $3.2 million. So the delta between that 3.2 that they're looking for and what they received in base is about $1.5 million. So that is the general look and what I was able to see. I can provide some historical expenditure information for the LAOB, if that would be helpful, but.
No, I think we got some great information yesterday from Gene. So we have, but I think that this is helpful because I know there's some concern about this section, and certainly 5.6 is a lot more money than we're giving anybody else. So this helps put it a little in perspective, which is useful. Any questions for Ted? Thank you for making time for us. Of course, really appreciate it.
Yes.
Anything else?
Back to you, so you can.
So we should continue to discuss it. Okay, great. Thank you I hope that grade was helpful, Tucker, for in other ways. Then, thank,
Of course. I mean, if you need anything else.
oh, well, we will. Thank you. Okay. So,
Page 11, section 11. This is the regulation by local government section that was discussed for quite a while yesterday. So first, you'll see subsection A has made an appearance. It was not in the previous draft, and that is because within the subsections that deal with the votes, the opt-in votes within municipalities, there's some language highlighted at the end of that first subdivision. States that a proposal to hold a vote pursuant to the subsection may be made by the legislative body of the municipality or by petition of 5% of the voters of the municipality. This is language borrowed from various provisions in Title 17, including the charter amendment process. So it reflects the ability of both the legislative body to put an opt-in vote on the ballot, but also for voters to petition directly to have this placed on the ballot.
right, and that gives that is framed in a very positive way rather than negating as like board's authority. It's just great. I think that's, as much as we can do that, that's good. Pepper and Julie, okay? Nothing from Jeffrey, so you must be okay with that. I assume. Great.
Looks good.
Jeffrey, I am liking your logo, which I haven't really fully appreciated, even though I've seen it on printed stuff, but the dove with the cannabis is charming.
I appreciate that. I'll pass it off to the designer.
Okay. Okay, Tucker, next change.
On page 12 in subsection B is the section that deals with what conditions can be placed on the issuance of the local license. It was the substantive discussion yesterday. First, this has been broken up into subdivisions to make the large subsection more digestible, easier to understand what those conditions are under current law. And we decided yesterday to maintain the status quo, which includes adding any of the bylaw and zoning requirements under 4414 as a condition. That is, again, current law. It eliminates the expansion of the ordinance authority as a condition on the local license. And as a reminder from yesterday, ordinances still apply to these entities.
Right.
It's just about the condition on the local license. You asked me yesterday to add indoor cultivators to the exception to ordinances related to public nuisances as a condition on the issuance of the license. So now indoor and outdoor cultivators are covered. I broke it into individual subdivisions because the outdoor cultivator provisions are conditioned on compliance with the required agricultural practices. And it's my understanding that the RAPs do not apply to indoor cultivators.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for this. If the VLCT is watching this, I hope they chime in to see if this actually helps clarify what I heard as a lack of clarity on what local boards do have the authority to do, but that can all be done in the House. So let's just.
Thank you. Thanks, Josh. No, I think at this point, Josh and Sam, you know, they're paid to trackers, so they know this is in play. I figured they'll have many other bites at this apple. Or at this bud. Many other bites at the bud. Yeah, maybe not. Bite at the brownie. I'm sorry. It's Friday morning. What can I say? It's 5 hours of sleep, so it's a little punchy. So next change is.
It's on page 21.
Thank
These
you.
are the new tax provisions.
Oh. Sorry, Jeffrey, do you have something before we leave this section?
Apologies, I did. Sorry to catch you at the tail end there. In just looking at the carve-outs for local control, I see that indoor cultivators is there. I recall we also included, at least in discussion, manufacturers. That this is because the indoor cultivator and the tier 1 manufacturer, they're both able to operate out of their home. So we wanted to try to make sure that that's still possible without disrupting that, if that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'm going to turn to Julie and Pepper on that.
And I don't this doesn't change our rules around what is allowed, how we license people. So I wouldn't think it would. I wouldn't think it would interrupt. I don't think it would, I don't think it's an issue, I guess. is what I'm
Okay, it's a non-issue. So Tucker, where would we add that? Right there. Indoor,
And to be clear, this is tier one manufacturers.
is that right, Jeffrey? Tier 1, yeah, thumbs up.
Noted.
Thank you, Tucker. David, I'm sorry, you are behind.
I know.
It's like,
Before you move to page 21, there was a change here from the previous draft around the product registration. I would argue that the language that was in there previously was permissive for the board to figure out, if possible, how to do a multi-year product registration where it makes sense. That's been eliminated here. I didn't know, that was a decision that hadn't been made as of yesterday, but it's not included in this draft, the language that was in there. You have the biannual licensing fee included, which is fine for the employee
Right.
licenses. But the product registration fee is, I just didn't know if that was a decision that you had made. If it is, it is, but I just wanted to point that out.
It's page 17.
Page 14,
page 14.
section,
I actually don't think we made a final decision on this. I know it was more challenging and that was a thought still in play, I think. Is that fair? Or this is definitely, David, as you know, the more challenging part.
Understood.
For the CCB. And I think the CCB would, my memory of that conversation was that they would prefer us not to change it, that there were some challenges in separating out shelf life, what had sustained shelf life for 2 years and what was needing to be reviewed every year. Would it make sense to keep it as it is with asking the CCB to come back to us next year with a proposal on how to address that?
I mean, they've sort of done that year after year. So
On how to deal with this, on the product shelf life?
We had to do a fee report last year where I touched on this because this is
I don't remember.
fee
the
related.
touchdown.
Right. Well, it's essentially the same testimony that I provided yesterday.
Which is, it's hard. I mean, the testimony is, it would take time.
It involves question A, there's an IT cost, so there's just going to be a cost to it. B, because there is no FDA involved, it's going to involve us developing things along the lines of expiration dates for various types of cannabis products. Currently, there are none across the state. They're just this is an area where there's a lot of research going on, and you start to add up what we're going to require of licensee, submit advanced stability test results for every product that they want an extended product registration for, and include expiration dates and things like that. I mean, and then there's the IT burden on us. It's just, is the outcome worth the kind of reduction to administrative burden? So those are the two things. That's what you're trying to balance here by doing this.
And I assume it would be an additional burden of time and energy, or maybe not, maybe that's the point, is it's reduced time and burden on manufacturers. Is that right?
yeah, and the if I may, just the
Yeah.
last thing, I don't need to belabor this, obviously, for the board, but the language as you had drafted yesterday was permissive, it said the board may, and it didn't require, it didn't say shall, it didn't set any time frames, it said it may extend product registrations, based on, I don't have the exact language, but I just wanted to point out that the.
No, you're right. Section 9 is out. I don't think we've made a full decision on that.
It's,
So I thank you for flagging that.
Yeah.
Committee, if it's permissive, the board could, and I don't want to speak for, because 2/3 of them are here, but the board could conceivably say, we're going to deal with X number of products this year. You don't need to necessarily do the whole kit and caboodle in 1 year. Right?
We would have to upgrade the licensing portal if we're going to do.
Which you're already going to have to upgrade for the employees, right?
The employee we can do on the back end and just say that your renewal email that goes out telling you to renew is going to go out in year 2 instead of year 1. But if we have a 2-year product registration option for certain types of products, then you're going to have to be able to choose between a 1 year or a 2 years. There's going to be an IT cost to do it.
Yes, any thoughts?
Well, I would just, I would encourage us to leave in the permissive language for now as another place we could point to the need to restore more control over the budget to the CCB. That here we are saying we're trying to create a coherent and fair and streamlined market that works better for our small businesses. And we lost the ability to do a lot of that good work with this change.
We don't actually, I think, have language in this bill at the moment and may have to leave to the House about, but it could be done in finance about the control of the CCB budget,
Yeah.
giving it back to CCB.
I thought we talked to the chairs of the money committees
Let's do
about
that.
this separately. I just think, we're asking them to both create a safe, regulated market and a fair, consistent, and like user-friendly market. And they're doing it with less budgetary control.
all the time. So I would propose that we keep put 9 back in, apologies, and that we continue work on it and make it work for the CCB a little bit better in that regard, but also let the work on it continue. Is that okay?
Again, this is.
I know it's going
yeah.
to be a challenge. It's permissive, but I appreciate the challenge here. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that, this should be kicked to finance.
No, I don't. I think this is more house. This is a bigger conversation.
And Brooks is the group that made the change, so they're familiar enough with the conversation that I think
Okay, so
it was a kind of budgetary change, not a revenue change. The revenues.
they didn't make a product discussion change. They
Right.
made how the CCB
Is able to
not
sequester and then remit their funds.
right. Are we okay with putting it back in, and we know the conversation is full going forward? Okay, we have 15 minutes left. If we can finish up, so the rest, okay, Mr.
21.
Counselor Anderson.
Counselor Anderson, President. Page 21 starts series of,
And remember, most of this is statutory changes up until this point, right? I mean, they're just statutory, like,
you're talking about the technical corrections. Yeah, many of the sections that follow the section that was just discussed are the integrated license cleanup sections, eliminating references to integrated
I
license.
just want to remind everybody as we go forward, it looks like we're flipping through a lot of pages, but it's, Julie, do you have a thought?
No.
Okay. You're just leaning into the conversation, so I just
My
curious.
phone says.
It's almost as good as a hand up is a lean in, Sorry. Top of page 21.
Yes, new section 24 and the next couple sections again came from tax and they may have more context for this. So first, an amendment to 32 VSA 6061 definitions, amending the series of qualifications under the modified adjusted gross income definition for federal adjusted gross income, and adds a new subdivision F stating that with the inclusion of any federal deduction or credit that the claimant would have been allowed for the cultivation, testing, processing, sale of cannabis or cannabis products as authorized under Title VII, Part 4.6 USC 280. This is cannabis business expense deductions.
Or state income tax. Right, thank you. And I think we're all fine with that. It's a business, it needs to be a parity there.
You say,
Tax parity.
when you say came from tax, that's the tax department.
This is remember we're gonna add 3 provisions that the tax department requested, and we said, oh, let's add them here. And Randy said, oh, let's not wait till finance, let's add them here, and then we can have that conversation. Okay, the next one is,
An amendment within Title VII in the cannabis statutes to a section of law dealing with land use standards for the cultivation of cannabis. It amends in subsection F. notwithstanding for subsection A, which I did not include for context, but I should have. A cultivator licensed under this chapter cultivates cannabis outdoors. And currently, this applies to on a parcel of land that is struck. So it would now be as defined in rule by the CCB pursuant to section 881.
Yeah, they're okay with.
And then I, for reference, where this applies, subdivisions 3 and 4, eligibility to enroll in the use value appraisal program and exemptions from certain tax provisions.
I have to say, when I chaired the use value appraisal task force in 2007, I never would have thought we would be having this discussion. It's great. Things change. I mean, it takes several
20 years.
decades, 2 decades, but they do change. Thank you. Sorry. Just the one plus of institutional memories you can actually remember when we were having some.
You can see things change.
Right, it's great. Okay, section 26.
All right, something that I'm a little more comfortable with, confidentiality. So 32 VSA section 3102 governing the confidentiality of tax records, specifically in subsection E, which allows the commissioner to discretionarily share certain tax record information. A new exemption to the general rule of confidentiality is added to allow the commissioner to share confidential tax information with the Cannabis Control Board for purposes of administering the cannabis excise tax, the sales and use tax, and the exemptions to those taxes as they apply to cannabis.
Right. Thank you.
All right, page 23, right at the top. This is new. Exciting. Here we all are. Section
This
27.
is not from tax, is that correct?
That is correct. We've moved beyond taxes.
We're on tax in a taxless section.
Taxes. I'm sure the taxes are involved somewhere, but
Right.
this has a new 7 VSA section 904C.
Yeah,
This follows
this is your quad.
within Title VII statutes related to cultivators and cultivators.
But this is, our focus here in economic development is corporations, and what we allow here, it's not an agricultural decision. This is how they organize as a business.
Mhm.
Right.
You're not.
I just felt I had to say that out loud.
Yes.
The new 904C establishes cannabis cultivator cooperative corporations. It states that licensed cannabis cultivators may form a cannabis cultivator cooperative corporation pursuant to 11 VSA Chapter 7, which governs general cooperative corporations and cooperative associations. In the same manner as other associations or persons engaged in the production of agricultural or handcraft products. Now, within that Chapter 7, specifically in subchapter 2, currently this is available to other agricultural producers, but the definition of agriculture for purposes of that subchapter does not include cannabis cultivation. This is being added to Title VII to allow cannabis cultivators to access this form of corporate registration without having to directly amend the definition of agriculture. And it gives them a different name as well. All Cs.
It gives, what is that name?
The Cannabis Cultivator Cooperative Corporation.
It's C to the 4th power. Wow. Great. Okay, thank you.
The last set of changes to
Yes.
So it's curiosity, what net effect does it have? Does it change permitting rules or what does it do?
I actually, Thomas,
So I'm glad to see this language and I'm welcome to hear more thoughts on it. I don't see the downside, but I'm welcoming of other opinions, but the upside
Yeah,
is
there's
it's just
big upside.
for small farmers when they get a share. So if we got 2 farmers, imagine a municipality or even a county where there's 4 or 5 not contiguous farms that want to share a tractor. So if they are a cannabis cooperative, they can then buy the tractor and then have that be part of the cooperative and appropriate portions of it to their expenses. So it just allows for them to collaborate while still maintaining their independence.
and share business expenses. I mean,
That
it's,
sounds good. If I could kind of pivot to the CCB, is there any real net effect from the perspective of
The net effect from the perspective of,
numbers of permits or,
oh,
I really don't know. I mean, it all sounds good, it's reasonable, but what's the,
What I see happening here is a bunch of small cultivators getting a cooperative manufacturing license that would allow them to just have a single extractor and they could bulk purchase packaging and have a single kind of a single parameters.
Hi.
We have enabled this through our regulations, but this has been a roadblock for people to actually make that vision.
Great, good.
One of the primary benefits of the cooperative structure as well is that you can break out ownership interests in the agreements between the various different entities so that the cooperative corporation is acquiring assets. You know, the classic example, because I'm pretty sure there's only two of these cooperatives that exist, is the dairy industry. So you have,
Agrimart is
you'd
a
have,
classic
you
example.
know, bottling and sterilizing locations that are cooperatively owned, and each individual dairy farm that's separately incorporated has a share that is proportional to the amount they are contributing to the cooperative.
But we also see this in the arts world, in the craft world, there are a couple of these. Great,
You're at the end of the changes, the effective dates, think some things to note in here. The effective date section becomes effective on passage. And the reason for that is that you have, with some of the tax changes that I flagged, a retroactive provision. So in subsection D, section 24, related to the household income cannabis business expenses deduction, takes effect retroactively on January 1st, 2025, or household income received beginning in the 2025 calendar year, and applies to property tax credit claims filed on and after January 1st, 2026. Everything else in the bill takes effect on July 1st.
thank you. I think if we are able, and I know you have a busy morning, if we can make those changes, we have one last decision point, I believe. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I think we have the money decision points that we want to finally confirm, because those were outstanding. Is there any other decision point we haven't made? Because I think we're pretty good on everything else. Is that right? Any thoughts? This is your moment. And remember, this conversation is just beginning. Now it goes to two other committees and into the House. So
Are we relatively okay on time, Madam Chair?
we're gonna pivot to housing in a minute.
But really
But
quick, Senator Ron was here earlier with that example with the contiguous land. I'd love to
Yeah,
hear her
we
reaction.
solved this. We hope we solved that.
I'm not particular.
Okay, so this was like the Magic Man example, so allowing for the events permits. I forget what page that was on, but we were.
Tucker.
Page
Yeah,
5,
if I have it.
subsection C.
Page 5, subsection C.
Oh, sorry.
Look at that.
My lips.
I think it's fine, but I was channeling my inner Keisha.
Oh, me too.
Right, so. Right here, it says a cannabis retailer that holds an event permit shall not conduct sales at a licensed retail location and the permitted event contemporaneous.
Contemporary.
And instead, I believe you're gonna, what are you gonna add in order to allow for an example with a store that is contiguous or has a space in front of it that might have an event that they could still operate and sell from the store while the event is occurring in very close proximity to their store?
Can I make a statement that I was gonna make otherwise that might solve this?
He has a language.
He has some language. Do you want to hear the
Say
language?
what you were gonna propose.
Okay.
So a cannabis retailer that holds an event permit shall not conduct sales at the licensed retail location and the permitted event contemporaneously, except for sales conducted from a permitted event location that is contiguous with the licensed location.
I mean, like, it's fine if Tucker likes it. I guess what I would say is we just did the same, we constructed the same language for alcohol and we did it in a different way. I believe that they have to subsume their permit. They can still only be operating one permit at a time. And an event permit is more like a catering permit than a retail permit. So the CCB is going to decide what can be done with an event permit, which might look different than what can be done with transport. They can't really transport their retail permit
I
with this
see what you're
location.
saying. It's actually a different dynamic.
Okay,
Because the issue that you're pointing to that exists in the alcoholic beverage statutes is when two different licensees are attempting to conduct sales at the same location. The holder of a caterer's license cannot cater within a first or third class license location.
mhm,
You can't have two on-site licenses operating within the same
right.
licensed space.
What we kind of just said they had, like, let's say they were catering a wedding on their front lawn and they had a wine shop inside. They, regardless of contiguous nature of the property, they would have, or they were doing it at Arts Riot next door, something, so it's not contiguous. They would have to subsume their retail license. That's what DLL wanted, is you can't, you know, they're often at different times of day, but you can't be, because, I mean, right now, it's a good question for the alcohol thing.
Are you comfortable enough with the contiguous piece? We
Sure,
conversation
yeah.
about this now?
I like nerding out on this stuff, and I just want to make sure
Well,
we're doing the same
yeah.
thing.
Where my mind went with
Yeah.
contiguous language, which you're likely familiar with,
Yes.
is that you're dealing with the same underlying licensee.
Mhm.
You wouldn't have to get another.
This is the
license.
same structure in alcoholic beverages that applies to manufacturers who pull a fourth class license in order to serve samples
Right.
at their manufacturing location.
Mhm.
And they're allowed to do it outside of the manufacturing space, provided
Mhm.
that it's on land that is contiguous with their
Right.
license.
But we're allowing them to do events only if they are not operating their retail license.
Correct. Except if it's contiguous, they would be able to keep the retail location open and pull an event permit for some contiguous part of their property outside of the license.
Good, right?
I mean, that's actually not what we're saying to them, I don't think.
I think that,
The alcohol.
well, that was the example you gave.
We don't care about alcohol.
So I think,
Fine.
I love her
Yeah.
nerding out
Yeah.
because she's channeling her former inner house stuff.
Well, we also
Yeah.
have to deal with alcohol at the same time.
No, and we're getting an alcohol bill, as we know. So, I'm okay with this at the moment, with this new language and getting it out to.
Sure.
For the moment. So the decision point I believe that we have left are the two money pieces. To me, the at which I would point us to at section on page 23. I think we're in good to go on everything else. And I would, I know this section, particularly B, was a challenge for some members of our committee. I would argue that it's an existing board that is doing good work. This is more money than we're giving anybody else, and it's more money than their budget. And I feel comfortable reducing it, particularly given the $1 million to the ACCD to continue the business development fund, and because that's almost used up, and that has been proven to be very helpful as well. So those two arms of support for the communities that were disproportionately affected, I'm comfortable with. The question is the amount of money, and I would ask what is the committee, and I know there's a vote that has been expressed as contingent on this, and so I'm concerned because I think we have general support for this bill, but I also would, if we can get to yes, I would really love to get the yes on B on line 11. So we heard that their budget is that they have a $1,000,068 is in the budget. We can advocate strongly for that. Their budget is 3.2 million. And so obviously they needed another 1,000,005 to meet their budget. So if one advocated for 3.2, it strikes me that there are two choices. I mean, there are choices in between, but that one choice would be to advocate for the budget, the total budget of 3.2 million, or advocate for the additional 1.5 million, which is less than the base funding. It's just to fill that up, the gap between 3.2 and 1.68, which is already in the governor's budget. David, welcome. We're not quite to housing. We're getting there. We're just finishing up on cannabis. what are people's thoughts on this? And, good. I will just ask them. David, you are the one who had the most challenge with this section, so let me know what you think.
Okay, so, I'm struggling with this one. I understand this is a nonprofit trying to do good work. What I saw yesterday in their budget was that they had a $1.7 million
Appropriation.
line item for salaries, for their staff salaries, which is roughly 170,000. It's 1.7 million, 170,000 per FTE. They had 10 FTEs. I don't, well, I understand they're doing, good social equity work. If you reflect on the other parts of the state's budget, is, let's call it roughly 3 billion, where we address housing, healthcare, social equity entitlements for the entire state. I'm just finding this excessive, and I really don't want to go beyond the governor's request. And I don't see why we should be providing additional funds in the name of social equity, when in fact, the majority of that budget, current budget, is absorbed by their labor costs, their salaries. So that's my point of hesitation.
I asked Kiera to see if we can get Jean or Ornella on Zoom, because I don't want to speak for them. I think one of the issues was backfilling the last year where they.
I think they got their money. They're all set, right? Impression was they got
BAA.
their money in the BAA and that they're
But-
all set going forward.
But I don't know how much of the 1.7 million on salary was.
I can't believe that's just salaries. Like, I thought that was.
Single line item, 1.7 million.
Is there a spreadsheet?
10 FTE.
Do we have a presentation yesterday?
Thank you.
Yes, okay, could you pull that up? Yeah, okay, let's just look
Okay.
at Jean's presentation from yesterday.
Do you want me to send the stupid invite to them or?
Please, let's pull up her presentation from yesterday. And then,
1.7 million for 10.
are you back?
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's that, but I want.
Okay, you hit send, and then let's pull up Jean's thing from
That
yesterday.
sounds right for 10 FTEs. I didn't know.
It does sound,
Oh my
I
God.
mean, the numbers all work out, but
Mhm.
the entire effort of the nonprofit to be absorbed by salaries before they even contribute to social equity is, to me, disturbing.
Well, I mean, they are contributing to social equity because they do a lot of facilitation, communication, outreach that in the past, we've relied somewhat on VCRD or other entities to bring community partners out to make sure we're directing other funds properly. So if you want to treat it as a percentage, it's less of a percentage if you look at overall what they eventually hope to be able to get out the door. But they're standing up these programs right now. So for example, the small developer, the Housing for All program, they need someone who's first finding small developers, ensuring they know what other dollars are available to them, and then granting them dollars to become successful small developers.
So labor is half the point. The other half of the point is we have so many other programs that are already well funded that address a lot of the social equity issues, which I believe this one organization is also addressing. I just find this kind of.
I don't think anyone else is addressing what they're addressing, which was our intent for about a decade, since 2016, at least with the first cannabis bill, major cannabis bill.
Let's keep going and get to the money piece.
Yeah, I thought we were on the money.
We're on the
Oh,
money.
okay.
I'm just trying-
Oh, this keep going there. I was like,
Yeah, no.
okay.
Well, I'm chatting with Kara. So is it possible, Kara, to make that a little bigger for us to see and pull it up a tiny bit so we can.
What the CCB has highlighted in multiple reports is that we've long had an intent
Right.
to go beyond
Perfect.
social equity as a cannabis business to social equity as a commitment to repairing economic harm. That the war on drugs caused many people to lose opportunity, to lose land, to lose generational wealth building. And since 2016, we have been having that conversation in the public sphere about what it would look like to use dollars from cannabis, where we're now passing to consumers and people who might have faced this in the past.
I understand, and I've heard that argument on many occasions. I just feel we've addressed that elsewhere in the budget, the state's budget.
Where?
I think the majority of our treasury is dedicated towards social work. And providing lift for those who have been economically disadvantaged. All right. Anyway, I'll leave it at that.
I think the question is, are we linking a high tax, like a high tax that we put on cannabis, which does make it difficult for people to make a full living in this business? Have we directed enough of a very high tax on this specific product that has caused so much economic damage to the people who were most impacted?
I'm going to interrupt and have
Jean's here.
Jean come and answer. Jean, we've got your budget pulled up, but if you'd like to just, Jean, welcome.
Hello. Thank
Hi.
you, Jean Hamilton from the Land Access and Opportunity Board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are discussing the last thing left in the cannabis bill is your appropriation, which is at 5.6 million, which given the rest of what we have been able to appropriate or felt we could appropriate for other things is very high, particularly in relation to your budget. So we would just like to ask you, I think that it's a little bit of a sticking point for a couple members. And so we just would love to, actually, I think the first one is David has a question about your staffing and how 10 people are, I think your first question is on your staff.
Well, yeah, again, it's
It's a question.
it's a question, maybe it's their data, that the line item for staffing and fringes for 10 FTEs is 1.7 million. That's the entire governor's budget input for the organization. It's 170,000 per individual. I'm sure that varies from high and low end, depending on who those 10 are. It completely absorbs, I believe, what you had last year and what the governor's staff was willing to provide for this year. It just begs the question of how much is enough and what's appropriate.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. So that 1.7 does include all of our staffing costs. It also includes all of our general operating expenses and all of our board expenses. So it allows us to convene our board and also to pay for our office and our overhead, our supplies, our staff mileage, and
That's what
Board. So
that's what overhead is.
Yeah.
So it's-
yeah, exactly. So that's our core operating expenses.
And that
And then-
board has been incredibly successful in bringing stakeholders to the table who have needed to be at the table for a long time to direct these funds. Wow.
So I appreciate that. So what is helpful, I think, for this discussion is that those are your operating expenses. That's not just salaries, because I think
That's right.
as it's under the line of salaries. I mean, I can't.
Oh, is it? Sorry, hold on. Let me look in.
Typical line
yeah,
item
yeah.
of the staffing costs.
Right.
That's okay. I
But
understand what
staffing
it
and
contains.
administration is different from just staffing, don't you think?
Fixed costs, like,
No, when we deal with business with a labor line item,
Yeah.
it's the labor cost plus all the fringes on top. I understand.
But
the
you don't
line item.
Got it. Okay, sorry. I did
$170,000
misspeak
per
that. But
nonprofit per FTE is excessive. It
Right.
Okay.
completely absorbs all
Can
of the
sorry.
treasury.
I'm so sorry to interrupt.
Sorry, Jane.
No, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Go for it.
So our salary ranges, if it is helpful to know, range from 70,000 to 97,000. Those are the annual compensations of our staff people. We do have some significant overhead. We do access all of VHCB's administrative capacity through our overhead, which is why we've been able to, in just 2 short years, get ready to launch this much money in grant making and also all of the other programming we're doing right now. So the 170, I know it kind of sounds like, ooh, that's a high salary, but actually a lot of that is the fuller administrative capacity we are accessing through, you know, general counsel, a full finance office with a CFO that has the systems to move hundreds of millions of dollars of state and public dollars. So I can see why it's a little bit like, ooh, this sounds high, but when you consider what we are able to move administratively within these salaries, it's quite reasonable and actually very modest for the work we've done.
Are you saying that this number includes general counsel?
Yes, it does.
And is that an outside entity, an outside provider, or is that a salary position?
That is a position within VHCB. So VHCB has, I think it's one general counsel, one FTE general counsel, who serves for all the contracting and the grant agreements, and then, you know, whatever else VHCB does. But because VHCB, are attached to VHCB for their administrative services, we have access to the full finance office, the legal counsel, you know, plus all of the HR. Those are services we access from VHCB within this salary item.
Thank you, Jean. We are going to need to turn here to,
Okay.
but my question for you, and I think we have a getting to yes moment here, supporting the governor's budget, your line item in the governor's budget for base funding of 1.68 million.
Mhm.
My question to you is, if we approve that and go forward, the additional 1.5 you need to meet your budget could be in one-time money. I assume you're advocating for that at the moment in the
Yep.
appropriations committees. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so I would, if we approve the 1.68 that's in the government budget now in this, and also work to advocate for that 1.5 million additional that you need. Because I see and hear your needs and appreciate fully those, but I think for us, quite honestly, to move this bill, may have to begin there and advocate strongly for the one-time additional piece.
Thank you. This is our budget for FY27, and this is the budget we are really hoping to fund so that we can continue momentum on this work, especially these programs. Can I have like 60 seconds to talk about the programs?
I
just want to say one sentence.
Your programs are terrific, and
Okay.
we are
Okay.
to make some people more comfortable. 60 seconds. That's it.
Last day of crossover, just.
Got it.
Okay, I just want to say that, so the programs, I'm really excited to speak with each of you about these programs. These programs are not just equity or justice programs. These are programs that are actually making other investments, other government investments more effective. Yeah, and so I really encourage, especially folks who are really like aligned with the administration strategy, to contact the agencies, contact those staff and say, hey, what's it like to work with the LEOB? In particular, I'd recommend reaching out to the DHCD team and also to folks at ANR, because we have worked closely with both. So that's it. Just like, I think you all are going to be really excited about this work when you see what we're doing. It's really impactful and like good for community, the whole community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. That was great. That was 60 seconds. Perfect.
Thank you.
Great. So I think at the moment, I would hope that this would mean we could get this bill out with a new draft number. If you, Tucker, can come back to us with, or what are your suggestions? What's your time? Your time is as tough as our time.
Based on the last couple minutes of discussion, am I doing anything with the appropriation section?
Yeah, you're changing, I believe, the LIOB to the governor's budget amount, which is 1.68. And we will actively advocate for the additional one-time money.
That is for purposes of base operating expenses for administrative costs, because right now the appropriation is 5.6 for purposes of loans, grants, and financial assistance under the loans, grants, and assistance programs in Title 10. So I'm assuming that based on the discussion, that loan and grant program.
I would just do appropriated to the Vermont Land Access and Opportunity Board, period, and that we will, and then I think,
That's a one-time expenditure. So I
no,
mean,
it's a base budget it's a base
this
budget,
isn't.
supporting base budget,
The
1.68 is base budget. It's base budget.
that would just be affirming what's in the budget conversation, which I just want to say, I'm not gonna belabor this, but if what we're saying is that essentially taking that section out, because that's grants and loans and one-time fund, is what gets 2 members of the committee to yes, I understand. But I want to add to what Jean said in terms of housing and resilience and other things. We are going to get the cost to the state of what occurred in South Burlington on Tuesday because of a complete breakdown in community and policing and trust. And it's going to be very expensive. It will probably approach the cost, of a whole year's worth of work for one horrific, damaging night in our district. So when they say they're doing deep resilience work and bringing together community members and stakeholders in municipalities, like law enforcement and town management and schools, it's expensive if we don't do that work. And we're going to see that in the budget as we move forward and as ICE shows up in our state.
Okay, committee, tell me how you're feeling here, because we could, I hear you, Jean, I hear you as well. I also know we're in a position of, we're in a tight, it's just tight, and I'm, while we could get this bill out 3-2, if we can, it would be great to get it out 5-0. My understanding is that this is a key point in this discussion. Is that correct? Or am I going out on a?
It better be that key point.
The only,
Okay, that I need to
we
hear
got
that
this far. We've had
I
this
needed to hear
conversation
that
for a
it's the
month,
only
but
point.
Still,
left.
Okay, so I would propose that at the moment, again, this is just the first stop for this bill, and that this bill will have opportunities for further discussion, both in appropriations, and I'm committed to advocating for the additional 1.5 million for one time, which we can also consider in an amendment either to the housing bill or to this as we look at amendments for next week. So I think, Tucker, what the next draft will have is 1.68 and just ended at the end of Vermont Land Access Board.
And in fact, it has been done. And I sent a highlighted copy of draft 3.2 to Kiara and you. So it is available to the committee
So
when you would like to review and digest.
You're referring to this document.
I'm referring to the
to the event.
78 strike all.
So if that is the case, if that is being printed, we could actually vote on this now.
For a motion, Madam Chair.
What, sir?
Maybe for a motion
I'm looking for a motion
on draft number.
on draft number 3.2. I think we've addressed all the concerns. And I think if people are okay, the draft 3.2 is coming to us. Tucker, that
Yes.
was amazing.
It
Editing in
has-
real time.
Each one of the individual components, it has the exception that I read to the committee a moment ago, and it has the language within the event permit procedures that you asked for. expressing that for the permittee selection procedures, the board shall include a requirement that permits are issued equitably among cannabis establishment license categories.
Right.
Are we comfortable for the motion now?
And Tony's getting us.
I can go grab the right now for motion.
Right.
Jordan,
David,
just because I haven't seen it and I can't see it, I just want to make sure I have the.
is it on our website? She just posted it on our website.
Okay.
It's on the website.
Thank you.
Happy to come back after the housing too, whatever you want to do. Motion.
I think let's just carpe diem.
I would move favorably as
S 278.
S 278 draft 3.2 time stamped 10/15 for it on March 13th,
Beware of the 13th of March.
9:17 a.m. I've been 9:17 a.m. Yeah.
Website, there's also an extra.
I would just like to say before this, thank you for that motion. I'd just like to say before this vote, I appreciate the work on this bill. This bill is much more wholesome than I had thought we might end up with. And so I am really grateful to all of you for your extension of faith and belief in this economic sector and in supporting it as it goes forward and doing the best we can to help it flourish and thrive. And I know there's some additional challenges. I also am really interested in work going forward and how we better prepare for the federal schedule, which we'll be working on hopefully in the next week. So thank you, committee. I appreciate your work on this. Mr. Clerk, would you be kind enough to call a roll?
Senator Ryan,
Yes.
Senator Chip,
Yes.
Senator Robinson,
Yes.
yes, Senator Fox.
Yeah. And thank you, committee. And Keisha, would you be kind enough to report this bill?
I would be kind of.
It's your baby. It's your third baby here.
Yeah.
It is. And although happily, I didn't have to preside while you had it. I mean, I did preside while you had it. It was all like right here. So, and if you need help on any sections, I think some of us are happy to help.
Great.
Because these are big bills and they're hard for any one person to do. Thank you, everybody. We are going to take a 5-minute break and then we're going to return to housing. And thank you, Cannabis Control Board. Thank you, advocates. Thank you, growers, producers, manufacturers. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Take care, everybody.
Yeah, and have a good weekend. And thank you. Good work.
Yes.
I mean,
I mean,